In part one of our four-part video series, Dave Bego, the author of Devil at My Doorstep, described the in-your-face attitude of Service Employee International Union organizers. In part two of this story, Dave walks you through the first stages of SEIU's corporate campaign. This is a well-orchestrated effort designed to force him into signing away his employees' rights to a secret ballot election for union certification. Union toughs demand that Dave consent to a neutrality agreement. A neutrality agreement is far from neutral, and it's devastating to workers' rights. In effect, what union organizers are demanding is a gag order.
At that point, he looked at me and he says, "Mr. Bego, we enjoy conversation, but we embrace confrontation. We will start targeting your customers and your buildings within 30 days. One of the things that I did early on was, and even in the conversations that I had with the SEIU contract manager and the president, was that as I said, if you want to have an election, let's just have an election, and let's do it now. Throughout the campaign, I constantly offered to have an election, not only to the SEIU, but to the splinter groups that they use to support their campaign, and that's one thing I haven't talked about yet. But during the campaign, I placed an ad in the Indianapolis Star and said, "Dear SEIU, please fish or cut bait." And in this article, I explained to them that we felt that we did the right things as a company and took care of our employees, but that if our employees want to have an election, we are willing to have one. But let's do it. And if we're going to do it, let's do it now. I never heard one response from this ad from the union. And I never ever got a response throughout the rest of the campaign to my suggestions we go ahead and have an election. And their philosophy is that between the money that you spend for defense and the time and effort and money you spend in your own organization, that you'll collapse and sign the neutrality agreements. I don't know about you, but it's not much of a way to do business. You know, that's like me going out and trying to capture a new account and sending letters out slamming my competitors, or trying to put pressure on that particular customer to do business with me, because if they didn't, I would expose something about them. It doesn't show very much character, and I just have a real hard time with that. The American public also needs to understand the correlation between the union's corporate campaign and their neutrality agreements and the Employee Free Choice Act. In the neutrality agreement, if I would have signed it, what I would have done is given up my people's right to a secret ballot election with the same tenets of the Employee Free Choice Act. Secondly, I would have been put in a position and agreed to not to talk about the union pro or con. Kind of a gag order, if you may. That's one of the things the union's trying to do with the fines that they're suggesting be imposed on employers under the Employee Free Choice Act. The third thing is I would have had to provide the union with the names and addresses of all my employees. We know what the union was doing as people entered buildings. Can you imagine what they would do with information where they can go to their homes? And I'll back up on that for just a second. We actually did have two instances, one in Indianapolis and one in Cincinnati, where the union organizers did show up at the homes of our employees and try to induce them into signing union cards, and in one instance kind of force their way inside the home. The other thing that I would have had to do under the neutrality agreement was send a letter to all my employees generally stating that I had reached agreement with the union and that they needed to listen to the union. It kind of made it sound like that it was a done deal and that they were going to be union no matter what, so that the union could go ahead and get them to sign the union cards. The other thing is it required negotiating the contracts within a certain amount of time or going to arbitration. And if you look at all these things, they're very similar to the Employee Free Choice Act. And as I said before, this is the precursor or the genesis of where the Employee Free Choice Act came from. The sad part of all this is that the employees are the ones that are losing in this. They're losing their voice. They don't have a secret ballot election. Their employers aren't allowed to talk to them and give them the other side of the story. And then it could go to binding arbitration where a government official is appointed to settle the agreement, and the employees would never have any chance to vote on that agreement. They would have no idea what's in that document until the arbitrator finally passed his decision, and it was passed out to the employees. It's scary to think that a country like ours was founded on basic freedoms and the secret ballot election, a process that our politicians use, a process they use in selecting their committees in Congress, would be banned as a basic freedom to employees in the workplace.